You think that's funny, do you?
Pokémon! That's a pretty popular thing nowadays. Pokémon debuted on the original Game Boy at around 1996 and has been going from mostly strength to strength since. The handheld titles were, at least. There was never really a core title on the consoles. A lot of spin-offs, sure. Actually a truckload of spin-offs. But never a core series title. Until the Nintendo Switch, that is. For the first time ever, an official mainline entry into the Pokémon series is being released on the Nintendo Switch. And it's not either of the Let's Go titles that are coming out in November of 2018. So with that coming out and the official Pokémon RPG coming out in 2019, I thought it would be neat to try and cash in on that popularity by checking out some of the Poke spin-off games that were released on consoles and then try and pinpoint why they were made and why exactly we never got a core entry into the Pokemon series on consoles. Let's start with the Pokemon Stadium games for Nintendo 64. It's an understatement to say that Pokémon was a hit. The initial games are the greatest selling role-playing games of all time, and for good reason. So with the massive success of the games and the anime, all the Sudi executives were like, we gotta keep this Pokeball rolling. What else can we do? Make a sequel to those games. Release an anime movie every year. We got that Nintendo 64. Put the Pokemon from this into this. And the idea for Pokemon Stadium was born. It really came about as an urge to keep shoveling Pokemon content into consumers' greasy, clawing hands. And we were okay with that. Taking the battle system from Pokemon Red and Green, which was ported over by none other than Nintendo legend and all-around pussy slayer Satoru Iwata, and the artwork by Ken Sugimori turned 3D, the fusion of these elements combined and fired out Pokemon Stadium. And it just was. First released in Japan as a bare-bones title, featuring only 42 playable Pokemon and a handful of modes. The entire point of this game was to be a peripheral for your Game Boy Pokemon games. If you had a transfer pack, you could look at your Pokemon three-dimensionally, and in future titles battle with them. Plus it's all in Japanese and I have no earthly idea of what any of this is saying. Does that make me racist? Pokemon. It says battle, you f***ing idiot! The game was also going to be released as a launch title for Nintendo's 64DD disc add-on for the Nintendo 64, along with Ocarina of Time. Nintendo saw the selling power of Pokemon and most likely wanted something developed that would sell their new disc drive. Then the Nintendo 64DD sold like shit, and that didn't happen. Oh no. Funnily enough, this was being developed when the Western world had no idea what Pokemon was. I saw an article by IGN referring to Pokemon Stadium as Pocket Monster 64, and they were like, ooh, what could this game be? The best thing about this game, to me, is that Shigeki Morimoto, I pronounced that wrong, took an extremely long time to develop the battle system for Red and Green. And then, old mate Satoru Iwata rocked up and ported the battle system over to Pokemon Stadium in less than a week and improved upon it. Like the move Wrap not continuing when a Pokemon is switched out, and a Pokemon will only stay asleep for 1 to 3 turns instead of the 1 to 7 in the original games. And he didn't even have access to the original coding. I mean, what kind of shop are they running over at PokeCorp? Game Freak. After 8 months, on April 30th, 1999, the Pokemon Stadium we all know and love was released, featuring all 151 Pokemon, every mode the Japanese exclusive had, and minigames. Oh my goodness, the minigames. You had the one where Licky Tongue eats food up like a fat shit, the Rattata one where you have to jump, and then that stupid f***ing metronome one with the Clefable beats the shit out of you for messing up. These parts are the highlight of the game, especially if you didn't have a transfer pack like I don't currently have. What? I'm not emulating the game. What are you talking about? It's on my original Nintendo 64. Shut up. Honestly, I think they should have just made a game based around these minigames and called it Poke Fun Park or something like that, because I get way more enjoyment out of these than I do with the regular battle system. It's kind of boring. Controversial opinion. The DreamWhale. Shut up. The problem is that while the battles are fun for a while, if you don't have your own Pokemon, you essentially enter a game of delivering one-hit KOs with type advantages. There isn't a great deal of meta. The intricacies of collecting and crafting and molding a Poke team isn't there. Instead, you have a Rattata that has f***ing Blizzard and Thunder. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Pokemon Stadium 2 came out in the year 2000 for Japan and the year 2001 for the rest of us suckers to coincide with the release of Pokemon Gold and Silver. Of the Pokemon Stadium games, this one is the clear frontrunner. It looks cleaner, it plays nicer, it will always cuddle after sex, It's the kind of game that you want to take home to your parents. Also, the announcer, I think it may just be me, but he sounds more hysterical.
Yes, it's going down.
Is there a problem, trainer? Yes, the announcer keeps proclaiming that sparks are flying in this heated battle, but in actuality it's just two Metapods consistently using Harden against each other, like that episode of Pokemon where Ash fought that dickhead samurai dude. I could talk about the gym leader mode in each game, but really it just boils down to battling and knowing type advantages. The gameplay can get very samey. The reward for completing it, fighting Mewtwo, isn't that great. Although I'm sure at the time it would have been amazing to see a three-dimensional Mewtwo. However, nowadays he is f***ing everywhere, and that's what I think the game really is. It was made purely for the novelty of seeing your Pokemon displayed three-dimensionally on your TV. I didn't even come up with that myself. I got that from an interview with Shigeru Omori and Junichi Masuda of Game Freak. On the reason why we haven't seen a Pokemon Stadium 3, Masuda said, "We really want to excite people and surprise them with new things they weren't expecting. The original games, of course, were 2D and in black and white, and seeing them in 3D was a stark contrast. It was kind of a huge surprise for players. Nowadays, the Pokemon are already in 3D, and I'm not sure that better graphics would be quite as impactful or impressive. So in order to come back to the Stadium series, I think we'd need to have some sort of new invention to justify it." That's very telling. The games were made 100% purely to see your Pokemon displayed in 3 dimensions on your TV. And you know what? They absolutely nailed it. Pokemon Stadium was entirely a product of its time. And for its time, it was absolutely amazing. Looking back at it now, I think I prefer viewing it through nostalgia goggles than actually playing it like I used to. There was a spiritual sequel to the Pokemon Stadium series released on the Wii in 2006 called Pokemon Battle Revolution. And that sounds hype as hell. I can't wait to check that out. However, next time I'm going to be taking a look at the Gamecube games in this series, Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon LOL XD Gale of Darkness. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can join the Dream Pod, so you can be notified of when the next episode of this series is coming out. Who's hype? I'm hype. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Sweet dreams. Mwah. It's a Pokemon! Charizardette! Put a crown on it and we can